Good morning, dear students. That is chapter 14, Natural Resources, and I am here with part 2 of the chapter. Now, let me show you what we are going to discuss in this part 2. These three topics today we'll discuss in this session, and the first one is water, then water pollution, and then minerals riches in the soil. Okay, so let me start with the first topic, that is water. Water occupies a very large area of the Earth's surface, and water is also found underground. Some amount of water exists in the form of water vapor in the atmosphere. Most of the water on Earth's surface is found in seas and oceans, and that water is saline. Fresh water is found in frozen state in the ice caps at the two poles and on snow covered mountains. Right? The underground water and the water in rivers, lakes, and ponds is also fresh. However, the availability of fresh water varies from place to place. It is not same everywhere. Practically every summer, most places have to face a shortage of water. And in rural areas where water supply systems have not been installed, people are forced to spend considerable amount of time in fetching water from a faraway sources. Why? Because they do not get water at their own place, so they have to travel for faraway places to fetch water. Now the question is, why is water so necessary? Do all organisms need water? Yes, all the organisms need water. And all the cellular processes takes place in a water medium only. All the reactions that take place within our body and within the cells, they occur in dissolved water only. Substances, they are also transported from one part of the body to the other part of the body in a dissolved form only. Hence, organisms need to maintain the level of water within their bodies in order to stay alive. Terrestrial life forms require fresh water for this because their bodies cannot tolerate or get rid of the high amounts of dissolved salts in saline water. Thus, water sources need to be easily accessible for animals and plants to survive on land. Here you can see why our body requires water. Three-fourths of our body is made up of water. Brain consists 90% of water. Nutrients and oxygen is transported with the help of water only. Okay. Muscles consist 73% of water, and moisturizes the air in our lungs, helps with our metabolism. Bone consists 22% of water. Okay, and blood consists of 83% of water. So you can see why water is that much important for our body and for all the life forms. Is there any relationship between the amount of available water and the number of variety of plants and animals that can live in a given area? Yes, it is. Okay. Now, what do you think? Where will you find a greater variety and abundance of life? In a region that receives 5 centimeter rainfall in a year, or in a region that receives 200 centimeter of a rainfall in a year? Obviously, in a region that receives 200 centimeter of a rainfall in a year means if there is more rain, there is a greater variety of life. The availability of water decides the number of individuals of each species that are able to survive in a particular area. And the availability of water decides the diversity of life there. Other factors that decides the sustainability of life in a region are the temperature and the nature of soil. Water is one of the major resources which determine life on the land. Now we'll discuss the topic water pollution. What is water pollution? Simply we can say addition of unwanted or harmful substances in water that decrease the quality of the water is known as water pollution, and the substances that are added to do so, they are known as water pollutant. Okay, so water dissolves the fertilizers and pesticides that we use in our farms. Some percentage of the substances are washed into the water bodies, and these fertilizers and pesticides pollute the water. Sea-waste from our towns and cities and the waste from factories are also dumped into the river or lakes. That is also a reason of water pollution. Specific industries also use water for cooling in various operations and later return this hot water to water bodies, and temperature of water will be changed, and that is also a reason of water pollution. Okay. Another manner in which temperature of water in rivers can be effective is when water is released from dams. So the water inside the deep reservoir would be colder than the water at the surface which get heated by the sun. All this can affect the life forms that are found in these water bodies in various ways. It can encourage the growth of some life form and can harm some other life forms. This affect the balance between various organisms which had been established in that system. So we use the term water pollution to cover the following effects. There are three effects that we'll discuss. The first one is the addition of undesirable substances to water bodies. And these undesirable substances are fertilizers and pesticides that are used in farming, or they can be substances like mercury salts that are used in paper industries. These could also be disease causing organisms like the bacteria that can cause. And the second point is the removal of desirable substances from water bodies. Dissolved oxygen is used by the animals and plants that live in water. Any change that reduces the amount of this dissolved oxygen would adversely affect these aquatic organisms. Other nutrients could also be depleted from water bodies. Okay, so this is the second uh, point of water pollution. Now, the third point of water pollution is, or reason of water pollution, change in temperature, right? A change in temperature also considered water pollution. Aquatic organisms are used to a certain range of temperature. If temperature is changed, they are not used to that and it will affect their life. In the water bodies where they live, there is a particular temperature. And a sudden change in the temperature would be dangerous for them and that will affect their breeding. The eggs and larvae of various animals are particularly susceptible to the temperature changes. Okay. Now here are some questions. Let me answer these questions for you. Why do organisms need water? Or why water is important to living organism? See, you know this that water is very much important to the life because every cellular process need water. Photosynthesis in plants also needs water. Transportation of substances in the body also needs water. So water is must for living organism. The second question is, what is the major source of fresh water in the city, town, village, or where you live? The major source of fresh water is obviously it is rainfall, then underground water from the wells, then pond, river, and lake are also major source of fresh water, and then snowball, right? Now, question number three is, do you know of any activity which may polluting these water sources? Dumping waste in the river is the main activity that is the reason of water pollution. Then factory waste, and then sea waste. These three are the activity that are the reason of water pollution. These are the main reason of water pollution. Now we come to the next point, that is mineral riches in soil. Soil is an important resource that decides the diversity of life in an area. Now what is the soil and how is it formed, that we will discuss here. The outermost layer of the earth is called crust, and the minerals found in this layer supply a variety of nutrients to life form. But these minerals will not be available to the organisms if the minerals are bound up in a huge rocks. Okay, over long periods of time, thousands and millions of years, the rocks at or near the surface of the earth are broken down by various physical, chemical, and some biological processes. And the end product of this breaking down is the fine particles of soil. So, this was soil formation. The factors or the processes that make soil are sun, water, wind, and living organisms. How the sun is a factor of soil formation. See, the sun heats up the rocks during the day so that the rocks expand. Now, what happens at night? At night, these rocks cool down and contract. Since all parts of the rock do not expand and contract at the same rate, that results in the formation of cracks and ultimately the huge rocks break up into the smaller pieces. So this way sun helps in the process of soil formation. Now the second point is water. Water helps in formation of soil in two ways. And what are these two ways? Let me see. Let me show you. See, water could get into the cracks. Okay, here you can see the cracks in the rocks. Okay, and water is entering over here. Now what happened? These cracks are formed in the rocks, and how these cracks are formed? These cracks are formed due to the uneven heating by the sun. Okay, so water gets into the cracks and later it freezes and then it expands. So then it will cause the cracks to widen. These cracks will get widen and uh, during this process soil will be formed. Okay, and the next way in which water helps in formation of the soil is flowing water wears away even hard rock over long periods of the time. Fast flowing water often carries big and small particles of rock downstream, and these rocks rub against other rocks. And the resultant abrasion causes the rocks to wear down into smaller and smaller particles, and this way the soil is formed. The water then takes these particles along with it and deposits it further down its path. So, this way, water helps in the formation of soil. Okay, wind is also a reason of soil formation. In this process, what happens? See, in a process similar to the way in which water rubs against the rocks and wears them down, strong winds also erode rocks down. The wind also carries sand from one place to another, like the water does. How living organisms help in soil formation? They also influence the formation of soil. And how they do this? Let us see. The lichen also grows on the surface of rocks. While growing, they release certain substances that cause the rock surface to powder down and form a thin layer of soil. This way, living organisms help in soil formation. Other small plants like moss, they are able to grow on the surface now and they can cause the rock to break up further. The roots of big trees sometimes go into cracks in the rocks, and as the roots grow bigger, the crack is forced bigger. Now you can see a soil. Soil is a mixture, and soil contains small particles of rocks. Soil contains a bit of decayed living organisms that is known as humus. Soil contains various forms of microscopic life like bacteria. The type of soil is decided by the average size of particles found in it, and the quality of the soil is decided by the amount of humus and the microscopic organisms found in it. Okay, humus is a major factor in deciding the soil structure because it causes the soil to become more porous and allows water and air to penetrate deep underground. The mineral nutrients that are found in a particular soil depends on the rocks it was formed from. The factors that decide which plants will thrive on the soil are the nutrient content of a soil, the amount of humus present in it, and the depth of the soil. These are the factors that decide which plants will survive on that soil, right? Thus, the topmost layer of the soil that contains humus and living organism in addition to the soil particles is called the topsoil. The quality of the topsoil is an important factor that decides biodiversity in that area. Okay, in this picture you can see the soil layers. This is humus, that is topsoil, then subsoil, then rock fragments, and then the bedrock. Removal of useful components from the soil is called soil pollution. Now we'll see how these useful components are removed and soil is get polluted. Modern farming practices involve the use of large amount of fertilizers and pesticides. Use of these substances over long period of time can destroy the soil structure by killing the soil microorganisms that recycle nutrient in the soil. It also kills the earthworms which are instrumental in making the rich humus. Fertile soil can quickly be turned barren if sustainable practices are not followed. Okay, so using of pesticide and fertilizer is also a reason of soil pollution. So now let me define soil erosion for you. Soil erosion is the natural process in which the topsoil of a field is carried away by physical sources such as wind and the water. Soil erosion prevention. How can we prevent soil erosion? Uh, that is by planting tree on barren land. Okay, it can limit erosion of soil. A wall at the base of the slope can help in preventing the soil from eroding. The second method is if we put a series of fiber locks to prevent any water or soil from washing away, then also we can stop soil erosion. And the very important method is mulch matting that can be used to reduce erosion on the slopes. Mulch means an organic substance that is used for boundaries or to cover the layer of the soil. And here you can see addition of mulch and rocks to prevent the plants and grass underneath, and it will be helpful to prevent soil erosion, right? Now here are the questions. Let me read the question and give the answers for you. How is soil formed? So soil is formed by breaking down of rocks through various physical, chemical and biological processes by various factors such as sun, water, wind and living organisms. The second question is what is soil erosion? So soil erosion is the natural process in which the topsoil of a field is carried away by physical sources such as wind and water. The third question is what are the methods of preventing or reducing soil erosion? So methods that are helpful in reducing soil erosion are maintaining a plant cover by mulching, planting a cover crop, placing a crushed stone, wood chips and other similar materials. So these all are the methods of preventing soil erosion. Thank you students. This much was there in this session and I hope you liked it. And now we'll meet in part 3 of this chapter. Okay. Thank you.